In the Cyborg Manifesto, Donna Haraway wrote that the relationship between organism and machine has been a border war. My work investigates this border war, the back and forth between human and computer. I got my first computer, a Commodore 64, when I was 2 years old, and computers and I have been inseparable ever since. As an exercise, I painted all of the computers I ever owned from memory. This was my Commodore 64 painted from memory. And this was my grade school computer, a Dell Dimension Pentium 2. This seems like a really innocuous exercise, but what I was surprised to see is the incredible hold that computers had on me. My paintings were eerily like the worlds in the old DOS games I once loved, much like this one. I realized that my own memories mimicked the game's structures. One frame linked to another frame, linked to another frame, with no realistic sense of space whatsoever, just a graph made up of nodes and links. My plastic brain internalized a computer's data structure. I realized that I was a cyborg and that I could not really tell where I began and the computer ended. I took into myself the machine's language, the machine's structures, and the machine's processes, and I actually found them to be very beautiful. Like many of you, after becoming fluent in the machine's language, I became enraptured with programming, where I could make whatever I imagined from nothing. Programmers call it being in the zone, but others might even call it ecstasy. Inspired by John Baldessari singing the instructions of Sol LeWitt, I sang the instructions that I knew, C++ code. C++ is made up of two files, the header file and the body file. This very simple C++ program layers the videos of me singing my own code. Unintentionally, I sang this code spiritually with much emotion.
Double quote, OF, backlog window, dot H, double quote, close paren, semicolon. Int main, open paren, int I equals 0, semicolon. I lesson num underscore video. OF backlog window, semicolon I window semicolon. Close paren. OF setup open GL brace. Open paren ampersand window comma. String.
Taking this a step further, I wanted to reveal to others how programmers feel about their code. We use words like elegant and clean. We talk about beautiful solutions. Good use of whitespace allows the code to breathe. Code that sings itself is a generative sound composition where the program, line by line, maps its own syntax to sound. The line length maps to my entire vocal range. The whitespace maps to inhales alternated with exhales. The punctuation maps to tapping. And letters and numbers are mapped to keystrokes. Of white space, but also that this generative composition is alive and always changing. In these last two pieces, I felt like I was the one in the control of the human-machine relationship. But in the next piece, I experienced a dynamic shift to one where I was no longer in control. I injured my hand such that I could not type at all. I was severed completely from my computer, truly frustrated and truly depressed. Having spent an hour attempting to communicate with my machine through Drag and Dictate, a well-known dictation software, I eventually cried in earnest. I used Drag and Dictate's interpretation of my crying to produce this next piece. I use a screen reader to read aloud the resulting text, a sad and uncanny poem of the computers in my broken relationship.
In the event will him, and him. Him. System. Will you who are of will and the will and will the end or it will go a little. I will.
My own experiences might be more exaggerated than most, but we are all cyborgs now, and there is no rolling this back. We are ecstatic when technologies give us godlike powers in virtual worlds, and we feel small and frustrated when we are oppressed and controlled by their rigid interactions. In my singing pieces, I use singing to humanize the coding process, but at the same time, I am also rehumanizing myself. Within my work, I propose that the boundary between human and machine is malleable, suggesting that we can take back our control. I believe that we can design technologies that not only avoid making us into machines, but rather allow us to redefine ourselves, to transform ourselves, and perhaps even amplify what makes us human. Thank you.